And with that, let me turn to our guest now. We should have up on screen. Hi, there you are. There's from Jerusalem. We're very pleased to have Nestor Owomuhangi, the representative of the UN Population Fund in Palestine. Mr. Owomuhangi, it's a pleasure to see you, and please let us know about your travel to Gaza.
Thanks, Farhan. Hope you hear me well.
Yeah.
And thanks for the opportunity to give you a quick brief about the situation of women and girls in Gaza. Now, in my 3 decades of humanitarian work across priorities in Uganda, the Philippines, Iraq, and recently in Yemen, the scale of devastation in Gaza remains unparalleled. The destruction, the loss of life, the despair is simply overwhelming. I returned earlier this week from an 8-day visit to Gaza, where I visited UNFPA's supported projects, including Al-Nasser Hospital in the south, and Kuwait Hospital, and an IMC-run field hospital in the middle of Gaza. Attempts to visit hospitals in northern Gaza were denied by the Israeli authorities, so unfortunately I couldn't go. But I also visited women's safe spaces. I interacted with women and met adolescent girls attending hygiene and life skills sessions. I also met youth volunteers currently helping to deliver humanitarian assistance. It was visible that a year of war has plunged Gaza's 2.1 million residents into catastrophe. Almost all have been displaced multiple times. In fact, one of them told me 15 times, with widespread homelessness. More than 5% of the population in Gaza have either been killed, injured, or are missing. Hunger affects 96% of Gazans, leading to disorder and looting. Anger mounts against humanitarian workers as conditions worsen. In fact, recently, we see social media posts that think that UN is not doing enough to help Gaza. And without police, without prisons, without order, if the population turns against the UN and humanitarians, then possibly programs in Gaza will simply stop. There are 49,000 pregnant women currently, and with about 4,000 due to give birth soon. That's approximately 130 births daily. Antenatal and postnatal care is scarce, increasing the risk of miscarriage and childbirth mortality. In fact, the odds of pregnant women miscarrying or dying during childbirth have now tripled. Malnutrition and anxiety hinder breastfeeding for 3/4 of new mothers, and milk formula is simply not affordable. It's not even available. Over 17,000 pregnant women are on the verge of famine, while 11,000 pregnant women are already in famine-like conditions. Overcrowded shelters and inadequate hygiene worsen their plight, with close to 700,000 women and girls menstruating and lacking sanitary products. And yet, winter is coming. And for Gaza, it comes with floods. The impending winter and floods will exacerbate sanitation issues, isolating women from vital services. Humanitarians involved in site planning are currently engaging municipalities to identify high raised grounds. But then as I was leaving Gaza, another evacuation order was issued, meaning for those who will be likely to come out of the gullies, these same gullies are going to accommodate the newly arrived populations from the north. Access to healthcare is diminishing as forced displacements impact critical facilities. Only 16 of 36 hospitals are partially operational. And with the new evacuation orders, 3 other hospitals are meant to close. So that will bring down the number of partially functional hospitals to 13. UNFPA's 6 mobile clinics provide emergency care, but they cannot meet the demand of the health system if indeed this system collapses. UNFPA's supplies are stored at borders, and logistical challenges are severely hindering reproductive health and women protection service delivery. Among the doctors, midwives, women and girls I met within Gaza, a few stories stood out. During my visit to an ICU at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, it's located in the southern part of Gaza, I observed 3 babies sharing an incubator. And the staff informed me that these infants are actually considered the lucky ones. Doctors at Nasser Hospital and at the IMC Field Hospital told me they were seeing an increasing rate of miscarriages as well as heart deformities among the babies being born. In Deir al-Balah, in central Gaza, I met young Gazans. They told me that when the war ends, they don't want to stay in Gaza. And that was once their beloved home, as they no longer see any hope for themselves in Gaza. And they were quick to show me pictures of Gaza, what they called Gaza skyline before the war. And they were telling me they can't believe they are leaving Gaza, that they loved the most. Among these stories of desperation and despair, there were small glimmers of hope. At the UNFPA-supported mobile maternity unit in central Gaza, I saw firsthand how it serves as a lifeline for pregnant women, with 96 cesarean sections performed at the unit in September alone. By early afternoon on the day of my visit, 4 C-sections had actually been completed. I was also humbled by the resilience of the women there who courageously seek care amid relentless bombardment and determination in the face of adversity. In fact, health workers told me that they believe almost every pregnant woman is currently seeking care to deliver in a decent facility or to be assisted to deliver. In the last year, UNFPA has supported around 45,000 women to give birth safely. That's about 2/3 of all the 60,000 births in Gaza in the last 12 months. We have done this through mobile maternity health units, providing reproductive health equipment and supplies to hospitals and health facilities, and deployment of teams of midwives in displacement settlements. We have all heard many times how to stop the suffering in Gaza, but without the 3 urgent changes I'm going to mention now, women will simply continue to suffer. First, we need to see the sustained flow of humanitarian and commercial goods into Gaza, along with sustained access to move aid effectively. UNFPA's trucks full of desperately needed medicines, medical supplies, and tens of thousands of sanitary pads have been stuck at Al-Arish for more than 2 weeks. In September, 87% of the 588 planned humanitarian movements were blocked or denied by the Israeli authorities. Second, aid and health workers need protection. Gaza, as we speak, is the most dangerous place for humanitarians, with over 300 colleagues killed, including the highest number of UN personnel in the organization's history. I'm desperately concerned for the health workers and patients in the Indonesia, Al-Auda, and Kamar Adwan hospitals in northern Gaza who have been ordered to evacuate. Al-Auda is one of the main maternity hospitals providing emergency obstetric care. Forced evacuation of health workers and patients will have catastrophic effects. Finally, we need to see an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and a path towards peace. Thank you, and back to you, Farhan.
Thanks very much, and thanks for that briefing. I'll now open the floor up for questions. First question goes to Edith Lederer.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. First, a factual question. You said the number of women who died had tripled. Can you give us some figures? And secondly, in the number of women who are pregnant, is there any indication of if any or how many might have been the victims of sexual violence and rape? Thank you.
Thank you. So, as you can imagine, the evidence we obtain in Gaza is anecdotal. We haven't had a survey that is comprehensive, that would give us figures. So the doctors tell us that the numbers they used to see before of women dying in their facilities have tripled. In fact, doctors were so concerned about miscarriages in Al-Nasser Hospital in the month of September. They saw 80 miscarriages, and they said they had never seen that in the history of the hospital. So these numbers are coming from the doctors who deliver these mothers. UNFPA is planning to conduct a comprehensive survey where, if there is chance, and this hopefully will be able to give us a study, not a survey. This hopefully will be able to give us some of the social determinants of what is going on and the actual numbers that possibly we can. In terms of sexual violence, we can as well I visited an IMC supported facility, and I indeed posed a question about the possible increase in number of gender-based violence survivors in their facilities. They confirmed yes. In fact, they gave me an example of a woman who had been beaten by her husband and unfortunately had a miscarriage the previous week. But again, numbers are difficult to come by, because even when you see an increment in such an environment, it may not be because of the increase in the general increase in the prevalence of gender-based violence. It could be the awareness that women have got or are now aware that there is a service being provided. But we don't have factual numbers, except to hear that from the service providers that these numbers are going up.
Okay, thank you. Margaret Bashir?
Hi, Nestor. Thank you so much for briefing us. I just wanted to ask, a while back we were hearing there were shortages of important medications, including anesthesia for C-sections and things like that, and that the COGAT was taking certain supplies off of medical convoys. So I don't know if you could give us a little more information. Do you have anesthesia for all these C-sections? Is there enough anesthesia for the women giving birth? And are you still having, you sort of touched, I think, for a moment on it, are you still having items rejected by COGAT, and what are those items? And then in terms of birth defects, could you just expand on that a bit more? I mean, are these the kind of birth defects that would be preventable with proper prenatal care, or are they environmentally caused, or are they stress on the mother? I don't know, like, could you just explain to us a bit more about that? Thank you so much.
Shortage of everything, from painkillers to anesthetics to antibiotics. There is simply a shortage of everything. In fact, Al-Nasser Hospital is concerned about laboratory reagents, and they want to isolate different bacteria to be able to provide what is required. So they were telling me even the few antibiotics they have, they are now dispensing them all to one patient, just with hope that the specific bacteria could be targeted. So there is a shortage of everything, and indeed, we have anesthetics in our trucks that are currently on their way to Gaza, but are waiting approval. In terms of what is not being allowed in, So it's not only denial of permits to get these items in, the actual problem is getting these items into the facilities where they are meant to be. So it takes, even when an approval is received, it takes about 4 or 5 months to get these items actually in because of the volumes of humanitarians, but also because there is no security that we require to guarantee that these items can actually be distributed. So because of different factors, including, of course, the permits, these items don't get delivered. In terms of causes, of course, when you ask, everybody tells you, it could be this and that. And I think, of course, coming from an agency that relies on scientific data, I wouldn't want to speculate, but we hear of all kinds of reasons why we have these factors, which we need to confirm scientifically.
Thank you. I see no further questions. So with that, I would like to thank once more our guest, Nestor Owomuhangi, the representative of UNFPA in Palestine. Thanks so much for your briefing.